Did you know that Ellen G. White more than 100 years ago already warned about the dangers of refined sugar and milk in our diet? Long before modern science talked about the risks of white sugar and raised questions about milk, it had already left detailed instructions, not just as health advice, but as spiritual guidelines. And the most impressive, your warnings remain incredibly current. We live in an era when diseases such as diabetes, obesity, chronic inflammation, and food intolerances reach millions of people. What we eat is getting sick physical, mental, and spiritually. And at the same time, many Christians continue to ignore the impact of these choices on their relationship with God. In this video, let's look at exactly what Ellen G. White wrote about sugar and milk. What's more, let's show how these advice, inspired by the Spirit of God, align with recent scientific discoveries and how they can transform your life. Stay with me to the end, because what you will hear today can change not only what you put on the plate, but also your communion with the sky. In Advice on the Diet, Ellen White wrote, "Sugar causes fermentation in the stomach and often disturbs the brain." CRAPN 327. It sounds simple, but this phrase carries a frightening depth. She was saying that sugar directly affects digestion and mental clarity, and this at a time when science even dreamed of studies on glycemic impact, insulin resistance, or intestinal microbiota. She also wrote, "Excessive use of sugar in any way is harmful. Some people are constantly sick because they consume sugar, cakes, and desserts." CRA Part 328. Sugar is one of the most consumed substances in the world. It is in just about everything: sodas, industrialized juices, breads, sauces, yogurts, cookies. No wonder the World Health Organization recommends that the consumption of free sugars will be below 10% of daily calories. But Ellen White already told us that sugar corrupts not only the body, but the mind. It affects our self-control, our clarity, and consequently our spiritual life. When the mind is obscured, the judgment is harmed, and the enemy finds open field to act. Temperance Peter 12. And here is the central point for Ellen White. Food was not just a matter of physical health, but spiritual preparation for final times. Sugar consumption not only harms our body, it removes us from spiritual sensitivity. He who wants to live in communion with God must also seek purity and balance in his diet. Now, let's talk about milk. A lot of people are surprised to find that Ellen White also made serious warnings about this food. For many Christians, milk is seen as natural, pure, even biblical. After all, the land that mans, milk and honey, is an expression of blessing. But Ellen White made it clear that the problem is not the food itself, but its current condition. She said, "In most places, milk is not safe." Testimonies for the Church, Volume 5, Pi 199. In another work, she guides, food should be carefully chosen. Meat, butter, cheese, very spicy dishes, and pickled foods should not enter our stomach. Milk should be used in moderation. The Science of Bomb Living P 302. That is, milk use can be tolerated under certain conditions, but preference is always for natural foods, simple and free of contamination. Remember, in the 19th century, the processes of pasteurization were still primitive, and even at that time, she already realized the negative effects of milk. Imagine today, where milk is one of the most industrialized products on the planet, full of antibiotics, hormones, pesticide residues, and genetically modified organisms. Modern studies confirm about 70% of the world's population has some degree of lactose intolerance. In addition, many researchers associate milk consumption with inflammatory diseases, respiratory allergies, acne, and even hormonal imbalances. And about cheese, Ellen White was even more emphatic. The cheese should never be introduced into the stomach. Advice on the Diet PETA 368. She classified him as highly fermented, annoying, and harmful to the digestive system. Today, science recognizes that cheese has casein, a difficult digestion protein that can cause inflammation and be addictive. The warning, of course, milk and its derivatives, as they are produced today, do not contribute to mental clarity or spiritual health. Many have difficulty abandoning sugar and milk, not for lack of information, but for dependence. Neuroscience studies show that sugar activates brain reward centers similar to drugs such as nicotine and cocaine. It is no coincidence that so many people have withdrawal crises by trying to reduce their consumption. This is a silent slavery. We are addicted to substances that get sick, but because they are common and accepted, we do not see the danger. And Ellen White had already identified this accurately. She wrote, "The appetite is our first great tyrant. Temperance Pettis 12. Food is the battlefield where many are losing spiritual war. Eating badly weakens the body, dulls the mind, and makes us more vulnerable to temptations. The good news is that liberation is possible and starts with practical decisions, what to do in practice. Change refined sugar with dried fruits, pure honey, or gradually reduce the desire for sweets. Replace milk with vegetable drinks such as oats, almond, or rice, always in moderation. Avoid cheese, processed products, and inflammatory foods. But most importantly, do this with spiritual purpose, not just aesthetic. We must study natural laws and be obedient to them, so that through health reform, we can be prepared for transfer. Health Counsels PIS 20, we reach the crucial point. What if what seems simple, like sugar in coffee or milk in the cereal, is actually a link between you and the voice of God? What you put on the plate may be silence, the spirit. It's not just about calories, diets, or fashion. It is about mental clarity, spiritual sensitivity, and preparation for a time when each choice will tell you even what we eat. Ellen White saw this with prophetic clarity. She did not write to control lives, but to save souls. She knew that Satan would even use food to weaken God's people, numb thoughts, and prepare hearts for deception. Each spoonful that brings us closer to the disease removes us from surveillance. And each choice guided by temperance is one more step towards the kingdom. True health reform is an invitation to liberation, liberation from passions, impulses, and the system that enslaves by appetite. And there is no more powerful cure than the one that begins with obedience and ends in transformation. You are not alone in this fight. There is a God who understands you, who knows his weaknesses, who has already overcome this war, and who wants to fight by his side. Today, you have a real chance to start over. No tomorrow, not when it is easier. Today, the choice to put God above appetite may seem small, but it is a seed that changes destinations. The next time you try to seek comfort in a harmful food, remember, the Holy Spirit also dwells in your body. Its stomach is not just an organ. It is a spiritual field. Perhaps this is the last message of the day you will hear. Maybe you close your eyes in a moment and repeat in thought what God told you now. And if so, allow it not to die on the pillow. That turns into prayer, in action, in real change. Tomorrow may be different. You can be different. Start with a choice, a step of faith. And don't stop here. The next video that will appear on your screen is the perfect complement to this message. It shows you how health reform connects directly with the preparation for Christ's return. Don't miss it. May the Lord bless you, strengthen you, and that you never see your diet the same way. Thanks for watching. Until the next video, God willing.